On today's show, we're joined by one of the Ottawa Senators' all-time legends. It's number 4, Chris Phillips.
The Big Rig tells us about his role with the team today, training camp, and which Ottawa Senators team did he think was the best of all time.
All that and more on today's Locked On Sens.
I'm Jake Sanderson.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a free 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. That ends this Sunday. You can also follow the show on social media. We're at Sens Central on Twitter, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. You can find us free and available wherever you get podcasts, including on YouTube. Today is Friday, September 20th, and Pilsy, Senators training camp in full swing. We have a preseason game this weekend.
And not just any preseason game, Ross. On Sunday, up against the Toronto Maple Leafs in the heart of enemy territory. What a way to kick it off.
I thought you were going to say a Nikolai Kulemin revenge game.
I mean, I hope so. Yeah, let's see him light it up.
We didn't really get yesterday full lines, and it was a skating test. It was a lot of conditioning and where are you now? We had some pairs, we had some trios, but nothing we're going to read too much into except for yesterday's show when we overreact to every little detail of training camp. So we'll point you in the direction of yesterday's show. We've had a great week on Locked On Senators where we talked about the biggest questions surrounding this team, the biggest storylines around this training camp. And it'll be good because now we'll actually get a sense when they step on the ice Sunday in Toronto and then 2 home games at the CTC on Tuesday and Thursday next week. Kind of a sense of what Travis Green is thinking with his lineup.
Yeah, I mean, after having so many seasons with DJ Smith under the helm, you kind of got an expectation of what he was going to do in the preseason. So this will be a whole new experience. And we'll see if Travis Green kind of has a couple lines and pairs he likes and keeps them together, or is he going to be hitting the blender every day and just seeing what works, what doesn't work? So that'll be fascinating to see his process.
Cannot wait. Sens hockey is so back, and we're so pleased to be able to introduce a great guest to today's show. It's a man who needs no introduction. We just want to say thanks to the Ottawa Senators, Ian Mendez, and of course, Chris Phillips for taking the time to join us. Really fun conversation, the Big Rig. And we got a lot into his playing career. I hope people enjoy that because we asked a few questions about this year's team, but when you have a guy with so much experience in the organization, it'd be a shame not to open up the memory box a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he literally played the most games as an Ottawa Senator of all time. So it'd be wild not to get into his career. And he's seen it all. So he shared a lot of different stories with us. And Ross, I know one you like, some Anton Volchenkov stories.
I think that not only that story in itself, but the pizza line, a whole lot more. Let's get to it. On today's show, it's Chris Phillips. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. You guys have heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we've got something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with the YouTube TV base plan, you're going to be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account, current form of payment, and you can cancel any time. Ross, we're taking a look at some of the FanDuel options. What are you looking at today?
I'm looking at the new dad bump for Brady Tkachuk. The FanDuel over-under on points this season is 81.5. So will Brady Tkachuk be an 82-game point-per-game player or not? The odds -114 either way. So if you bet $7, you'll win $6.14. Also, if you want to get wild, but if you believe in the Hulk, as Josh Norris is calling Jake Sanderson, you can get plus 12,000 odds That's $5 wager for Jake Sanderson to win the Norris Trophy to win $600. So I might put a loonie on that one just for luck.
Yeah, there you go. And you can do the same. Just visit FanDuel.com. Download America's #1 sportsbook. Check it out today, guys. FanDuel.
FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. I'm sure they love their loonies over at FanDuel. We got to let you know today's episode also brought to you by the GLEBE Central Pub. The GLEBE Central Pub is back with Locked On Senators. We are so happy to have GLEBE Central Pub back in the mix, and we got to drop off a little gift for the GLEBE Central Pub yesterday. Now, when you go into the GLEBE Central Pub, the jersey hanging right in front of that two-top. We'll call it the Lovebird table. You got the red seats. You got the red seats.
Ross, we got to do an episode there. You and I sitting at that table. Let's do it.
100%. And also, this year, we are going to have an amazing relationship with the GLEBE Central Pub. Not that it already isn't, because the GLEBE Central Pub has been our home. The postcast is officially back. Talk about bearing the lead. The postcast is back, season 3, all because of the GLEBE Central Pub. And they're going to have a game day special. When we get closer to the games, it is going to be home or away. You'll get 2 GCP lagers for $7.79. Yeah, it's $7.79 Bank Street. 2 beers under $4 each. You serious? We are here at Locked On Sen. So head to the GLEBE Central Pub, 779 Bank Street, and let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. It's the GCP, where the vibes are free. Go visit them today, 779 Bank Street, and let them know that we sent you. All right, here he is, the big rig, number 4. All right, we now welcome on a very, very, very special guest, a former first overall pick in the NHL draft. His 1,179 games played are the most in franchise history, and that's before adding another 114 in the Stanley Cup playoffs. His number 4 hangs from the rafters at the CTC and will never be worn again by an Ottawa Senator. Now he's the Sens Vice President of Business Operations. Chris Phillips, welcome to Locked On Senators. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. How are we doing?
Doing fantastic. This is a huge honor for us. I grew up watching you. I didn't know Sens hockey without Chris Phillips, and you came in right away. They start making the playoffs, and year after year, it just felt like you guys had a real chance to win. Now you're on the business side. You ever miss it going into this time of year where the excitement, it's almost like that back to school feeling?
Yeah, it's a perfect scenario for me because I'm in at the rink, every day, and as you said, see the guys come in, the excitement of the players, the staff, and everyone around the city for that matter of getting ready for hockey season. I'm at the point now, the body doesn't miss, having to train and be ready to, take the bumps and bruises all season long. But, certainly to see the guys, today was a great day, in the hallway and seeing, Wade Redden and Alfie, and just reminiscing and talking about, these days a long time ago. So that's a lot of fun for me.
Now, obviously, every new season brings new energy, new hopes, all those kinds of things. What's your read on the vibes of the rink this year at this training camp?
Yeah, I think it's really exciting. I'm excited to see what's going to happen this year. A fan of the team now, obviously, and seeing the changes that they've made. There's changes every off season. Obviously, lots of hope, for Allmark to have a great season. It goes, way beyond, just bringing in one guy, but being able to, play some team defense in front of them. And, you look on paper at the abilities that we have offensively. Really, if they can, I think they have the pieces if they can all connect and line up. Knock on wood that the injury bug stays away. I'm really excited to see what these guys can do this year.
You hit on goaltending right away, something we've talked a lot about over the last year. Basically, since your old man Craig Anderson left, they've been trying to find that stabilizer in the crease. Last year, there's also a lot of talk about the balance on the back end. And I know in your heyday, all 4 of the top 4 guys, you, Volchenkov, Char, and Redden, were all left shots. And last year felt like that really didn't work necessarily. Was that ever an issue back in the day for you guys?
You know what? The guys on the right side seem to do a good job of it. It really seems like in the we'll call it the last 10 years ago or 10 years or so that everyone's talked about having a right-hand shot defenseman. But you go back to guys like Ray Bork that preferred the right side being a left-hand shot. Like nobody really talks about the advantages of being on your offside, especially offensively, being able to just get to the middle, see the whole ice at the same time, getting pucks to the net. And I guess maybe we're just in a time where if you're given ice time, you take it. You don't complain about being on the wrong side. You make the most of it. I even had to play forward for a couple of years, so you take what you can get. But I like I said, you look at the ability that we have, on paper. I think those guys can, if they got to play on their offside, they can handle that, and expecting to see good things, honestly.
Steve Stais, former right shot defenseman, though, does he remind you how important they are?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's crazy how it's it's like that left-handed pitcher in baseball. Just it's kind of the unexplainable, coveted position right now. So we'll see what happens if they're able to fill that a little bit more as time goes on.
So you've been on the business side of the team for a few years now. I'm just wondering, what's a typical day on the job for Chris Phillips?
Typical. I think.
Or is there a typical day? Is it always different?
Yeah, I think there's lots of things on my plate right now, which is is super fun and exciting and challenging, quite honestly, at the same time. Heavily involved in lots of the renos that we have going on in the building this year. Looking at things that we can do, already for the next off season. With World Juniors coming this year, heavily involved in that project, which is super exciting for the team, for the city, I guess among other duties as required, we say. But it's lots of walking around the building, lots of emails, phone calls, a little bit of everything going on. So there's certainly no monotonous routine that I have to try and get out of.
So with that, and we see a lot of your former colleagues, let's call them, Jason Spezza going the management route, Daniel Alfredson now an assistant coach. Were you always more attracted to the business side? Going back, I mean, you helped open the big rig while you were still playing. Has that always been an interest for you?
I think, honestly, when I was playing, I never, said to myself or thought, one day I'd like to, go into on the business side of the, on the hockey club and work my way up there. It's something that I've kind of grown into, in a position that I'm, really happy to be in. But, on the flip side, those guys, playing with Alfie Spez, Todd White is another guy. They're hockey nerds. Like they're watching all the games. They're studying guys. They knew it. You asked them about a player, they knew about them. And I'm not bashful to say that maybe I could have played longer, maybe could have done more. I don't know, but I laced up my skates. I got out there and did the best I could, and took my skates off, went home, and rarely turned on the TV to watch a hockey game or to follow what was going. So just not a student of the game like those guys were. Maybe a little more or too old school than some of those guys, but that's how it was for me.
Now, you said when you were playing, you weren't really thinking about the business side of things, but when you were playing, did you ever think that you were going to have the honor of having your jersey retired? And what was it like when you found that out? How did you find out you're getting your jersey retired? Tell us all about that.
Yeah, that's certainly not that's not on the bingo card. It's it's honestly a huge honor. It's as you grow up and you play the game, playing street hockey, road hockey, wherever you're playing hockey, you're dreaming of winning the Stanley Cup. You're thinking of scoring that overtime goal that wins the cup, or that's what it was all about for me. It wasn't about the accolades, the stats, all that kind of stuff was in my rear view mirror for sure. But to get the call from the team to say that they were retiring my jersey is it was a huge moment, one I'm as I said, extremely proud of, and honored as part of this organization, drafted in '96. It was a few years ago now. It's funny talking to young kids, or I guess the opposite, running into 30 somethings in stores or whatever, and they're like, yeah, I remembered you when I was 5 years old, and make you feel old in a hurry. But just to be with this organization since then, my entire career, really everything I have, and then called the business life, I owe to that crest that's on the jersey in this organization. So, and to be honored like that, and it's huge for me. But I look at it as even more so when my kids go to a game or a concert even, and look up and see the cool name and number up there. That kind of gives me the chills when they get to kind of experience that.
That's so cool. It was such an awesome moment too. A lot of people remember Curtis Lazar coming out on the bench for the whole ceremony there. I was at that game too, and we were 4 and 3 years old when you got drafted here on this show. So we were here. We remember that. Hey,
we remember.
But hey, I also remember that game because the Sens scored the fastest 3 goals in team history that night against the Sabres, and I felt like it was so poetic because we remember back to your 1,000th game. You're at 0 goals on the season. You come out, we get 2 one-arm salutes in that game. 800th game, 2 goals in that one as well. Were you just saving up for these big moments, or what?
I wish I had more milestone games, I guess. That's for sure. It's just funny how that works out. Obviously they're big games and you get excited for them, but and the preparation for the game is no different than any other game. But, I guess, sometimes we talk about the hockey gods. Maybe they're they look after me on the milestone nights.
Hope you're enjoying our conversation with Chris Phillips. We'll get right back to it. But first, Pilsy's got a word from one of our favorite sponsors.
Yes, today's episode is also brought to you by GameTime. GameTime is the official ticketing app of the Locked On Podcast Network. And GameTime's got a new feature called GameTime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. GameTime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. All-in pricing, switch this mode on, and you can see the total up front, no surprise fees at checkout. Just make sure to turn the all-in pricing tab on your app, and you get a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy. Lowest price guarantee, or GameTime's going to credit you 110% of the difference. GameTime's ticket coverage is one of the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry, so take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL. You're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download GameTime today. What time is it? It's game time. only 30 players in league history have
30.
played more games with one franchise. So it got us thinking, was there ever a time where you thought you'd be moving on, whether through free agency or trade? Like, how close did things get? Did they ever get close?
We know Neeler had to turn down the Habs. Thank goodness.
Yes, thank God.
Yeah, absolutely they did. I know early on, as I said earlier, they had me playing forward. Like, I don't think the trajectory was what they had in store for, a number one pick, albeit, a little bit different back then. The team was going in the right direction. It wasn't like I was coming in to save a franchise. I was, a cog in the wheel. So they were able to, be patient with me. But, I think in saying that, maybe, unlock potential, whatever you want to call it. I think I was, mentioned during the trade deadline a few times. I think there was one time it was reported. It was funny. My wife is actually on her way, got into doing a natural nutrition degree, and she got to class and heard everyone was letting her know that I had been traded. I think it was to Washington. And she said to her teacher, I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow. I think my husband just got traded.
No.
So obviously that was one time. As the career goes on, I had filed for arbitration. The one time we were able to settle that out without anything having to happen. When I was playing towards the end, Brian Murray was the general manager.
Yep.
And there was a couple teams. I think it was Vancouver and Boston that were both, talking about me going there, possibly making a move. And it was kind of a wild story, really, but able to, hammer out a deal, myself and Brian, in the hotel in Calgary, the morning of the trade deadline, and it was, literally, kind of minute by minute of being able to, iron something out. I think, as time, you look over the course of the career, I think there was times that certainly I could have said, thanks, go to this free agency thing, see what it's all about. And, always able to, come to an agreement. Obviously that was my first choice.
Yep.
And likewise for the team, I think there was opportunities where, they could have made a move, chose not to, and when it's all said and done, I'm very thankful that, both the organization and myself, for that matter, chose to stay here.
That's special for the whole city. Like, small market team, having the three of you with Alfie and Chris Neal being so instrumental in that era of dominance that you guys had. The 14 straight playoff appearances. It just, every year you felt like you had a chance. Something we debate often on this show, Philly, is what's the best Sens team of all time? We throw around 2003, where you got the last game-winning goal of that season in Game 6, overtime against the Devils. 06, 07, they were similar but different in certain areas. Feel like you're the best guy to ask. You've been in the playoffs 14 out of the franchises 16 times to the dance. So what was it for you? What team gave you the most confidence when you look back? Like, that should have been the cup year.
Well, I don't know what the right word is. I struggle to find it because we have, nothing to show for it other than going to the playoffs. And there was that stretch from 03 to 07 where it was that close to being a dynasty. And it seems almost embarrassing to say that it could have been a dynasty when you don't even have one.
Yeah.
But we're that good and that close.
The lockout timing was so brutal for you guys, man.
Yeah, that hurt. Absolutely. 03, that was arguably that might have been the best team.
Yeah. I mean, you won the President's Trophy that year.
Yeah. And, I think you go back to that Game 7, outplayed Jersey. I think we hit 3 or 4 posts. It was that close, and they kind of walked over Anaheim that year in the finals. So I think we would have had a better chance, to win that year in the finals if we got through that Game 7. Coming out of the lockout, we have Dominic Hasek. They've changed the rules. They've opened it up. I mean, I think we started the season scoring like 8-9 goals a game. We beat Buffalo. I think Alfie and
10-4.
Havlad both had 4 goals, and
that's absolutely sick.
And it was just like we had the pizza line was going crazy. Like
that's when Pizza. Hey, you're a businessman. What'd you think? Pizza raising the goal from 5 to 6 to get that free slice.
That's what I was just gonna say. Like they had this safe bet of 5 goals, and it just about bankrupt them having this best business plan ever, and just totally went sideways because we were so good. Like it was
so good.
And then Dom goes to the Olympics, he gets hurt, and who knows what would have happened that year. Obviously 2007, we're already in the finals and that close. And Anaheim had a really good, strong team.
Nobody was beating them.
But we're obviously got to the finals closer than we've ever gotten. So you take those 3 years, like we so close to having a few more banners hanging in the ceiling and nothing to show for it, which is disappointing at that time. But once you're retired and you look back, you talked about, I thought everyone, that's what we did. We make the playoffs every year and have a chance, like 14 years in a row. Like, come on. So looking back on that and those years, it was so much fun.
Yeah. Oh man, it was fun to be a fan. Free business idea for you guys. I know you guys do the Ring of Honor. You do it so well. The Dr. Don Chow one last year, absolutely phenomenal. I think you guys need to hang a slice of pizza in the ceiling. That way you have Alfie, Spezza, Heatley all together. Because you said it. Like, how fun was it being on the ice with those guys? It felt like every other shift they were getting a goal.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody talks about me and Big Z at that time having to bail them out all the time.
You guys were the crust.
All they were worried about was scoring goals. But
they were the dipping sauce, man. You can't have the pizza without it, right?
Yeah, but it was, absolutely. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome.
I wanted to pick your brain about, you talked about that season you guys won the President's Trophy. There's always this debate that the team that wins the President's Trophy, when they get to playoffs, they're not as hungry as that 8 seed and they can come out a little flat. Did you find there was a major difference in how the team approached or was ready for the playoffs based on where you finished in the standings? Like if you're a President's Trophy and you've kind of been coasting, you clinched a while ago, or you're grinding to get that last playoff spot, like was that a big impact?
I think there might be a little bit of difference on, whether you finish first or whether you finish 8th. President's Trophy, I don't know if that has any impact on it. But we were rolling pretty good into the playoffs at that level. There was those couple years that we were kind of towards the top of the standings for sure. That we didn't come out on the right end against Toronto. I think the 1 year I think we played them 3 times in the preseason. I think we might have played them 8 or 9 times in the regular season. The schedule was so skewed. I think we played them 10 or 11 times or something like that. And we might have won every game. And then, either got swept in the playoffs or like some of those years get jumbled up for me, or
fair.
We had the Game 7 against them. But, all that being said, they got the better end of us in a couple of years there in the playoffs. So I don't know if there was a stretch there where, we were one of those teams that was built really good for the regular season, but just weren't ready yet for the playoff hockey, that, stepped it up a notch, physically, mentally, everything that goes along with playoffs. But then, you look at, my first year in the league, we were number 8 going against Jersey, and upset Dougie Gilmore and Scott Stevens and Marty Brodeur, and for that matter, we were still a bunch of young guys that lots of people didn't know our names, and kind of a lunch bucket team that just we were so close as a unit, that just made it fun. We competed, and we were hard to play against.
You certainly were, especially on the back end. You mentioned you, Red, and Chara, Volchenkov. Now, I can't let you go without asking about today's team a little bit more on the back end, and we really appreciate your time, too. We have coined Tyler Kleven the K-Train, a little homage to Anton back in the day.
Yeah.
How would you describe him to maybe younger fans that didn't get to see him eat pucks every night?
Yeah, he was unbelievable. He literally, I never seen a guy enjoy, not only blocking shots, but also, I never seen a guy bruised like that before. Like if I got, if I blocked a shot and you'd be limping out of there, and there's a bit of that, feeling good about yourself, and you're laying it on the line, and kind of a, it's, a poor man's, and I apologize to the military, but a bit of a battle wound that makes you feel good about. I had nothing I wouldn't bruise. You guys would look and be like, yeah, it must have grazed you, it didn't even hit, and Volchi would come out and he'd have a bruise like that on his thigh that was every color of the rainbow, and it looked like it really hurt, and I know it did, but it looked unbelievable. And he'd come in and he just laughed. He loved it. We had that one playoffs where against Pittsburgh he got hit in the face, and he had to wear the full cage.
Yep. And
he had that on for a game, and then doctors, whatever, they're like, okay, you're fine, you don't have to wear it. And he's like, no, I want to keep it on, just because it just made him even more fearless. He was like the Iron Man of he'd do anything. He might as well have goalie equipment on and just put his face in front of the puck. But going back to talking about Kleven and the younger guys, he is less talked about, I guess, with some of the bigger names that we have in there, and like that's my horse. Like he's,
I figured it would be.
He could be the, he's the next in line, the shutdown guy, being a reliable guy, go play defense, no fanfare, but go and get the job done, and it's a a position that you need. It's a cog in the wheel that you need to have in order to succeed, and I think he could be a big piece of that going forward.
Yeah, and there's a lot of young players on this Ottawa Senators team that are looking to have a big year. But I think what's been really noticeable about what Steve Staios did this offseason was bringing in reliable veterans. Just talk to us a little bit about how important that is as a player, getting those veterans. Because the year past, there's last year there was Claude Giroux, Travis Hamonic. That was kind of it, really.
We'd be the third oldest players on the team.
Yeah,
you're feeling old. We're feeling old now too.
Yeah, so clearly Steve Staios and the staff has noticed that and brought in veterans, guys that have won cups. Just how important is injecting that veteran leadership into a lineup, especially one like the Sens?
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think it's there's some great moves there. Obviously Steve played the game, for a long time, where he was a veteran guy himself, to really see the impact that you can have on the younger guys to, they're starting out their career, and just get them on that right path of, how to be a pro, doing the right things, taking care of themselves, how to handle themselves, both, when things are rolling and either uphill or downhill, either way, of really trying to, stay on that even keel. It's a long season. It's a long grind. Really becomes exhausting if you start, living and dying on every win and loss, and beating yourself up or riding the high horse. Both of them are exhausting. Now, having the amount of social media and amount of people weighing in on, whether you're doing great, whether you suck, one of the two, you just can't get wrapped up in that. And I think having that, advice coming from the older guys, now and maybe now, so because the older guys actually kind of grew up a little bit with the social media, where it was, when I was towards the end of retirement, with the younger guys were actually showing me what Twitter was and how to sign on and and what to do.
I hope
with
it wasn't Mark. I hope it wasn't Matt doing it.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Definitely not. But that's all part of it, both on the ice, off the ice. There's some great leadership roles there that are going to pay dividends for the team.
Now, a final question for me here, Chris, and it's been awesome having you on. We appreciate your time for sure. Sens fans often debate, including Ross and I, what is the best Ottawa Senators jersey? Now, you've played for the team a long time. You got to wear a lot of those jerseys. What was your favorite jersey to wear?
Oh, yeah. Great question. I would say, Brandon, probably the one behind you is definitely
nice.
Is the heaviest.
Oh, the heaviest. They are heavy, actually. Yeah. Yes, I agree. Yeah,
it's like they built the jersey out of the same stuff they make those foam hats out of.
Yeah,
yeah. They would get so heavy.
That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, I love that we've gone back to the to the original
2D.
craft.
Yep.
But I think my favorite one was our heritage one that we wore in Vancouver.
Ross loves that jersey too.
I have it, but the cream color,
yeah.
I call it my game worn jersey. There's beer stains all over it, so I can't put in the frame or anything.
Awesome. Yeah.
But
that was great. I love the colors. I don't mind the the O logo as a third.
Yeah.
Especially with that setup. That was it was a nice one.
And you guys are undefeated in outdoor games. So another business idea, more outdoor games.
Yeah, there you go.
Even when we froze our asses off at Lansdowne.
Oh boy, yeah, that was a tough one. Yeah.
More milestone games, more outdoor games. That's the key to success.
That was only a 1 beer limit because the second one was frozen by the time you got to it.
Completely. But hey, you know what I always say? Habs fans that came, they didn't even get to see one goal. So thanks for coming.
Yeah, there you go.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming here. Really appreciate your complete legend in the organization. We appreciate you giving us some time. So thanks for doing this, and we hope for a great season ahead. And hopefully we'll do this again down the road.
Awesome. Sounds good, guys. Thanks for having me.
What an absolute treat to be joined by Chris Phillips on today's show. Pillsy, any final thoughts from you?
That was an awesome interview. I mean, anytime you have a chance to interview someone whose jersey number is retired in the rafters, you got to be excited about that. So we hope you guys enjoyed that interview as much as we did.
I think that the one quote, the money quote from that whole interview was him saying how special it is that when his daughters or when his kids go to a concert, they can look up and see, oh yeah, dad had a pretty sick career himself.
Or how about the praise for Tyler Clevin? You'll love to see that.
Yeah, and you just knew that he was a meat and potatoes type player. Bring your lunch bucket to work and get after business. So we knew that he'd be a big fan. And the Volchenkov story is also awesome. Pillsy, the rosters for this weekend not set yet. I'll point everybody in the direction of @Sens Central on Twitter, where we'll keep you up to date of the latest at Senators training camp. But give me one thing you're hoping to see on Sunday. I know we don't know the individual players yet that will take part, but is there something structurally, or at this point, it's just kind of getting the cobwebs out? Game one of, I believe, 7 or 8 preseason games.
I want to see Josh Norris on the ice playing with confidence to shut down all of the rumors of people being like, we don't know, is he healthy? What's going on? So I don't know if I'll get that wish, but that's what I'm hoping for.
I want whatever the equivalent is of Adam Banks in Mighty Ducks when the coach makes him flip, like hold the stick up and then turn it when his wrist was bad. He's like, Coach, I can play. Put me in. A big season from Josh Norris changes everything around how the Sens are perceived league-wide. Because I think they see that as kind of not as much secondary help as other teams do in their top 6. But if he goes back to 35 goals in 66 games, know where the puck's coming from, but you still can't do anything about it. That Josh Norris?
Yeah.
I think the Sens are in for a treat. So I like that. You're keying in on Josh Norris for the first week of training camp. I'm going to key in on Carter Yakimchuk because up until this week, I was of the mind, hey, let him go back to WHL right away. But clearly they've got different plans because at least in the first practice on Thursday, he's skating with Thomas Chabot.
Yep.
So will that be a pair for at least the first game of training camp? We'll find out this weekend. And again, you can follow us on social media, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram and Sens Central on Twitter. Thanks again to the Ottawa Senators for allowing us the chance to chat with the Vice President of Business Ops. And oh yeah, an absolute legend in Chris Phillips. Hope you enjoyed that interview. For more, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. And I would also really appreciate, I know Pilsy would too, if you could leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and wherever you get yours. Those 5-star reviews, I don't think we're narcissistic enough to read them out on air, but we do read them in private. We tell our wives how proud you guys are of us, and it does mean a lot. No, it helps us with
let's get the Zoob comments back. We had a lot of people just commenting Zoob. That's great.
That's so good. Just Zoob. Yeah, we don't need the paragraphs of praise or insults. We'll pass on either. We'll do that those. 1-for-1 trade, both out the window. Yeah. Just read Zoob. And how many U's can your keyboard put consecutively in one comment? All right, that's it for us today. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. Your team every day.